Welcome back to the series on Alfred Lord Tennyson's In Memoriam, a sequence of poems on the death of his friend Arthur Hallam. As I record this, the pandemic crisis is definitely getting more severe, and as I said in the beginning when I started this project, I think it's important for us to draw on what resources we can to confront the basic questions of life, especially the meaning of suffering and of grief. It's appropriate to have an elegiac mood in these times because of all the people who are suffering directly from the virus and those who, many, who are suffering as a result of the measures to restrain the virus. It is a time for all of us to go into our hearts and to find what is beating there most deeply. We might find that deep down our hearts need an attunement to the heart of the world, this suffering, infinitely gentle thing at the core of all things, the tears of all things. So let us look at Cantos 7, 8, and 9. Canto 7. Dark house, by which once more I stand here in the long, unlovely street. Doors where my heart was used to beat so quickly, waiting for a hand that can be clasped no more. Behold me, for I cannot sleep, and like a guilty thing I creep at earliest morning to the door. He is not here, but far away, the noise of life begins again. And ghastly through the drizzling rain on the bald street breaks the blank day. So here we have a stark lyric. Tennyson is apostrophizing the house of his dead friend. Dark house by which once more I stand here in the long and lovely street. And then he goes on to say, there are doors here waiting for a hand. He's not switching his address to the doors. Saying to the house, behold me, for I cannot sleep, and like a guilty thing I creep at earliest morning to the door. Now that guilty thing seems to be a reference to Hamlet at the beginning, where the ghost is said to start away like a guilty thing. So he's a ghost. He feels guilty sometimes about the grief or the measure or the boundlessness of the grief that he feels for his friend. So maybe he is saying that he feels a little guilty about that. This is a thing where we would want to stand with him and say that this is okay to feel what he's feeling. These poems at the beginning of the sequence are all written later so he lost his friend in 1833. These are written 1848 to 1850. He still feels this most keenly. And he goes on, he is not here. So that's redolent of the statement in Luke 24, what the angel says about the empty sepulcher. But it's not that he's not here because of resurrection. He is not here because he's dead. So it's very, very devastating. He is not here but far away. It sounds as if he's on a trip, but it actually is a line that's enjammed. He is not here, but far away the noise of life begins again. It's a very poignant little touch. He is not here, but far away the noise of life begins again. So the morning business is starting, and ghastly through the drizzling rain on the bald street breaks the blank day. If we were just doing the iambic tetrameter and trying to force it right on the bald street breaks the blank day. Now, of course, that's completely unnatural in how we read it, and we have a very effective use of alliteration here. Bald breaks blank, a very, very effective line. So how we read it, in fact, has nothing to do with the underlying conventional prosody that we could force this into. On the bald street breaks the blank day. All of the emphasis is on these three alliterated words. Canto 8. A happy lover who has come to look on her that loves him well, who lights and rings the gateway bell and learns her gone and far from home. He saddens, all the magic light dies off at once from bower and hall, and all the place is dark and all the chambers emptied of delight. So find I every pleasant spot in which we two were wont to meet, the field, the chamber, and the street, for all is dark where thou art not. Yet as that other, wandering there in those deserted walks, may find a flower beat with rain and wind, which once she fostered up with care, so seems it in my deep regret, O my forsaken heart, with thee and this poor flower poesy, which little care for fades not yet. But since it pleased a vanished eye, I go to plant it on his tomb, that if it can, it there may bloom, or dying, there at least may die. Like Canto 5, a reflection about his own poetic practice in relation to this grief that he's enduring, his own missing his friend, and how their familiar haunts don't have the same light in them, that's gone dark. It's reminiscent of a passage in Confessions of Augustine on the loss of one of his dear friends. But it's a thing we all know, right? If you've suffered any loss, and not necessarily the loss of a friend, it's the loss of a love, the places that you went to with that love, the absence is very present. So he begins with the analogy, a happy lover who has come to look on her that loves him well, who lights, which means, I think, alights, gets out of whatever conveyance has brought him to this house. He lights and rings the gateway bell and learns her gone and far from home. So if he's invited into the home nevertheless, he saddens, all the magic light dies off at once from bower and hall, and all the place is dark and all the chambers emptied of the light. So many things in life depend on the inner light, right? If you're a person of faith, if that faith has somehow failed you, you can't turn that on by yourself. Or if one is lost without the love that one has grown to depend on, the light is out. There is an energy that bears us along in life, and that energy can come from many sources, and it's very precarious. This world right now is enduring this, that all kinds of things electrify us, keep the engine of ourselves going, and it can be shut off and everything looks dead. So find I, drawing the parallel, so find I every pleasant spot in which we two were wont to meet, the field, the chamber, and the street, for all is dark where thou art not. Yet as that other, as the lover of the woman, so he keeps drawing the parallel that this profound friendship he has romantic parallels, which it does not mean that this is not a platonic friendship. It just means it is as intense as any love. And yet as that other, wandering there in those deserted walks, may find a flower. So this man who goes to the house and his beloved is not there. If he goes wandering in the fields and finds a flower that she had in some way fostered with care, so seems it in my deep regret, O my forsaken heart. And I think he's talking to his own heart, not to Hallam. So it seems in my deep regret, O my forsaken heart, with thee and this poor flower poesy, which little care for fades not yet. That he's wandering about in the fields of his mind and his heart. He finds this poetic craft of his in the fields of his interiority, and it's not been it's not cared for, it's neglected because of his grief, presumably, and yet it's still unfading. And so what's he going to do with it? Well, but since it pleased a vanished eye, his friend Arthur, I go to plant it on his tomb. And that's this whole elegiac sequence that he's writing. So he's making it a monument of his poetry in this great sequence in Memoriam, which acknowledges one of his, if not his greatest work. Canto 9 is, it seems, the first written. So this is the first one that was basically from 1833. It's also the first in a sequence from 9 to 17 that relates to the ship that bears the remains of Arthur Hallam from Trieste to England. Fair ship that from the Italian shores sailest the placid ocean plains, with my lost Arthur's love remains. Spread thy full wings and waft him o'er, so draw him home to those that mourn in vain. A favorable speed ruffle thy mirrored mast, and lead through prosperous floods his holy urn. All night no ruder air perplex thy sliding keel, till phosphor, bright as our pure love, through early light shall glimmer on the dewy decks.
Sphere all your lights around, above. Sleep, gentle heavens, before the prow. Sleep, gentle winds, as he sleeps now. My friend, the brother of my love. My Arthur, whom I shall not see till all my widowed race be run. Dear as the mother to the son, more than my brothers are to me.
He's speaking to the ship, apostrophizing the ship that bears Arthur's remains, wishing the ship well, Godspeed, because of its cargo. All night no ruder air perplex thy sliding keel, till phosphor the morning star, bright as our pure love, through early light shall glimmer on the dewy decks. And it seems the address is switching to night here. Sphere all your lights around, above. So something about sphere your lights, moderate them in honor of this passage. And then you have this very powerful quatrain at the end. My Arthur, whom I shall not see till all my widowed race be run. A great line that, again, he's putting himself in the position of a lover. He's a man bereft like a widow. This is the purity and intensity of a great friendship. My Arthur, whom I shall not see till all my widowed race be run. Dear as the mother to the son, more than my brothers are to me. So he's used comparisons with romantic love, and now he's using those other strongest of bonds, the familial bonds above all, the mother to the son. And it seems to me there's an echo of that passage in the gospel, right? That who's my mother, who are my brothers? Those are the ones who hear the word of God and do it. Well, he's using that resonance to serve this sense of a spiritual union that is the most profound. Again, this is a love that we hold up as the kind of thing we want to obtain in our own lives, and eventually for all the people of the world. If our goal is to come by our elegiac vessel through these dark waters to a new city in the end, where all of us are brought together in the deepest and most intimate of bonds. That's the world we want to foster through the crisis, and as the crisis comes to an end, we want to keep in mind this great lodestar of our yearning to make possible a world where this kind of love that is being memorialized here is the love that is more and more in our hearts and spreading from heart to heart. Remember to click like and subscribe, and I will see you next time when we continue with In Memoriam.